Hey everyone, welcome back to the Hey Soul Sister podcast. I'm your host, Whitley Jane, joined with our co-host, Sherry Brown. And we're here today, joined with our special guest today, Heather Masters. Heather is a proud mother to three incredible adult children and multiple animals. She brings over 3 decades of experience working and learning with the holistic health field and has multiple lessons learned through that journey while raising her kids to be amazing people. She works as an intuitive healer for animals and people around the world. She's a speaker, teacher, healer, and so much more. Heather, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me. This is just a great opportunity to just share and have some fun and hopefully help some people.
Absolutely. So I know there are so many things that we can dive into and talk about today. And I think where I'd love to just begin is to just dive into, how you and I first met and some of the things that I've been able to learn from you and experience from your work. And I think we'll just kind of dive in and go from there. So I know originally you and we originally met because we both started the first day, same day at the same organization that we work at. And we soon became, friends more than just coworkers. We became friends. We really hit it off. And I think the biggest thing that I was really drawn to you as well, Heather, is just your huge, incredible light. You're so magnetic and you're just this big light that everybody is just drawn to, And I think that we definitely hit it off too because of some of the things that, we share even just in a spiritual sense too. So conversations were always easy. And and I know that there was at one point, one of the biggest things that I have learned from you being having to know you and the work that you do is really learning about my body in terms of being able to understand when my body needs rest, what my body needs, what to put in my body, and then also just really being able to heal my body too. And I just remember during that time and my journey in my life, I was kind of going through some health issues and having a conversation with you, learning that you do Reiki, learning that you've had 30 years of experience working with the body. And so I just have learned so much from you. And I'm hoping that, we can maybe touch on some of these things because I think it's so beneficial for other people to know this information and to have this knowledge for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks so much, Whitley. It's been amazing getting to know you as well. And I agree, both of you have such incredible light. And I think light attracts light, right? So we're attracted to those that can help us along our journey, but also who we're supposed to go through our journey with. So, I'm really, really grateful for being able to be open and having you be as open as you have been over the years, just sharing and asking. I love helping people. And so it was just natural when someone comes to me with an issue to just say, word vomit all over them. And have you tried this? And have you tried that? And I think looking back over 3 decades sounds much easier and lighter than 30 years because 30 years, I don't feel old enough to have had 30 years in this field. But I look back and I think, all of the things that I've learned and all of the lessons along the way, they were for me, but they weren't just for me, right? What I have learned, I can then turn and look at others and help raise them up based on the learning so that they don't have to struggle as hard as maybe I did, because I had leaders that were kind of forging in the forefront of this whole field that kind of turned around and put their hand up for me. So, it's been a journey of that growth where there's been a few at the top and then more and more people get to know about it. And then more and more people get to know. So through that journey, it's amazing to watch it grow, amazing to watch younger generations just grasp it so quickly and jump into things and then, quickly turn around and start their businesses and be really effective in the healing arts of some kind. So it's been a journey.
Yeah, and and throughout that journey, because you're right, like when you think about three decades of exploring and like gathering all of this information, gathering this knowledge and this wisdom, and throughout that process, like it's just like it's such a huge experience. And like through all of that, Heather, what have been some of like the most profound lessons in that journey have you learned that really help you to show up as who you are today?
So sharing some really cool tidbits like magic is real. Energy is so incredible. We are all so biochemically unique, but we are all so connected, right? So what works for me is not going to work for anybody else on the planet the exact same way it works for me. We have all our own fingerprints. We have our own energy blueprint. So everybody's different. So, I think what happens out in the world is that we buy into the next craze or the next diet pill or the next supplement or the next workout or whatever. And that we just end up being like squirrels, right? And it's so difficult to figure out what is it that's in my highest and best interest. So it's really being able to step back and understanding, first of all, how do I even know if it's in my best interest? Right. So that's the one thing that we always look to others to tell us. We look to card readers, we look to, wisdom seekers, and there's nothing wrong with any of that because we do need confirmation. So many people are so talented. But what I would much prefer people learn is how to first get their own feeling and gut check on it, and then go and ask for confirmation versus asking somebody, should I or shouldn't I? Because as soon as you should or shouldn't, then you're shooting all over yourself, right? And that puts you in a place of, again, manipulation. It may not be in your highest and best interest. There's so many other things that can get in the way there. And it's really important to learn techniques that you can really tap into your own intuitive self.
What are some of those techniques that we can use?
Yeah, great question. So the very first time I went to see a naturopath, I was in my 20s and I had a sick dog. So little story time and we'll get there. But I had this sick dog. And the only reason I went to see the naturopath is because of my dog. But I myself was suffering from all sorts of weird things that doctors couldn't figure out. So I went to this naturopath and she's like, all right, so we're going to hold your arm out and we're going to test some things on your body and we're going to have your body tell us what's going on. And I thought, okay, this is weird, but this is cool. I'm going to go with it because, like I'm paying her, so I may as well go with it. And it turned out that she was able to test my muscles to tell me what was going on emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually in my body without diagnosing. And I'm like, all right, this is cool. Like, what is this all about? The cooler thing to me was that she was able to test, in quotes, she was able to check the energy of my dog through me by me thinking about and focusing on my dog. My dog wasn't there. My dog was at home. I was in her office. And I'm like, what the heck is this sorcery, right? So like, oh my God, what am I doing? And I went home and I'm like, this is incredible. I don't know what this is, but I need to learn this. I need to do this. This needs to be my future.
Oh.
So I quickly, dove down the rabbit hole. Now we're going back 30 years. And so the rabbit hole wasn't the internet. It was like, who can I learn from? How do I get connected into this ecosystem? So the technique that she used at that time was something called Touch for Health. So what that technique is where it takes organs and systems in the body and it's mapped it out into muscles so that you can use the muscles that are related to each organ and system. Then they've identified emotions that are involved in each muscle and system and organ. And then they've identified the meridian lines. And it was put together by some chiropractors out of California back in the 60s and 70s. And it's just profound. So it takes, you move a muscle and then you can use different techniques to basically fix the energy. And I'm like, this is so cool. So I learned that, became an instructor in that. Of course, may as well do it all. If you're going to do anything, do it all the way. But what I really enjoyed through that is I learned how to test my own muscles to understand how that worked. So then I evolved from testing my own muscles to then using a pendulum or, a pendulum has weird, people think you're like crazy woo-woo if you use a pendulum, but anything with a weight to it that could basically be a tool that could help me ascertain what was going on with my body so I could set up questions so that I could get the answers that were divine truth rather than should I or shouldn't I.
Oh, okay. So this is
We've
really
done the pendulum thing.
Yeah.
Using the energy that's within us, but we need that tool for confirmation. So the pendulum simply reacts to the energetic yeses and nos within our body.
To us, like our intuition, our
Absolutely.
gut, like
Absolutely.
you say. Okay.
So basically, like if we wanted to, like if we were having a health issue or something like that, Heather, and we wanted to test, like maybe where that health issue is coming from or whatever it is, like, can we use it? How would we ask the question using a pendulum? So can you give it?
So first of all, you have to understand that the pendulum is nothing more than a weight on a string. So as soon as you realize that it's just nothing more than a weight on a string, whether it's a crystal or a whatever, that you just start there. It's just a weight on a string. So it has no power. That's the first obstacle that we have to overcome. Crystals have energy and you can dive into that and get more into that. But the basic of pendulum work is that it's a weight on a string. Then you learn which way naturally a crystal or a pendulum will swing for a yes answer. And you always hold it in your dominant hand over your non-dominant hand. And so a positive swing for me is clockwise and a negative swing or a no for me is counterclockwise. And if it just kind of vacillates between the two, for me, it's a maybe. Okay. So it's not the same for everyone.
Right.
So I've got clients that a yes is back and forth and a no is counterclockwise and a yes is, it's just, everybody's different, right? So it's understanding first what works for you. Once you understand that, then you can start to ask questions of your intuition, not of the pendulum.
Right.
The pendulum is just there because that's what we do, right? We think that this has power.
Yeah. Will I be rich tomorrow is not.
No. No.
Okay.
Yes, you probably will be, but no, that's not the question. So what we've worked around is what's the best setup phrase that we can ask that encompasses all, that helps us really dive into that centered, grounded truth that is divine energy. So it's not would I, could I, should I. It's what is in my highest and best interest. So it's always around my highest and best interest. So is it in my highest and best interest to take this supplement? If you've got something going on in your body, is it in my highest and best interest to test this right now? Or do I need to have a friend help me through this to help ask the questions with me? And you can ask the pendulum. You already know the answer. And you feel it, but we start to learn to trust our feelings. So it's really using a tool like that to start trusting your intuition. And I think once we have that trust, then, you no longer need to pull it out at a grocery store when you're kind of looking at highest and best interest for cornflakes, highest and best interest for frosted flakes, and you're getting a no to every cereal that you go down. Like me, I used to do this and you look like a freak, but I didn't care because I was so eager to learn, right? So I just pull this little weight on a string out everywhere I went. And it would just give me this validation of what I already knew. I knew I shouldn't be eating frosted flakes, right?
Yeah.
Is it in my highest and best interest? No. But then I could be at choice. I know it's not in my highest and best interest, but I'm going to choose to do it anyway, knowing that it's not. So then there's no blame game and there's no guilt, right? You've made it from a choice perspective. And I think that's what we can start getting back to that energy of. Because I think in the world that we live in right now, we don't feel in choice with anything. The world feels out of control. We feel like there's just so much going on. We're inundated through social media, through the news, through all these different things. It's really important to find your center because we connect with one another's centers once we connect. We also connect with others' crazies when we're right. So like when you're spinning.
I know. And Heather, I do have to add to that because you're saying how social media and the media, like all of the news and everything, I feel like I've been telling Whitley this for the past week. I've been down a rabbit hole of what's happening in the world and it's made me feel very heavy. And maybe that's contributing to me feeling crappy today because maybe I'm like festering all of that negative energy. So I'm feeling like because I've been so consumed, it's more of like my own energy is like manifesting whatever's going on in there. Do you think that would be something that could happen?
100%. 100%. Because what starts to happen is then we get caught up in this. How do I navigate this? What's in this future for my kids? Like, what's my next step? How am I going to continue on this journey that I've chosen with Soul Sister? Like, how am I going to continue in this maze of so many other things going on? Where can I be most of service? And then you back up and go, am I going to survive? Am I going to have enough money? All the lower level energies kick in,
Yeah.
right? So all our, not lower level, but our human worries.
Yeah.
And then there's our spiritual worries. And it's really detaching from that, taking a moment to center yourself, ground yourself. Grounding techniques can be as simple as running your hands under cold water.
Yeah, I heard
Right.
that from my Reiki master. He told me that. Yeah.
It is so powerful. So between clients, I still see clients in person. Between clients, I go and I just wash any energy in cold water with soap down the drain. Not that I believe that I'm Velcro anymore, but I just want to make sure that before I see my next client, I'm showing up as all of me, not feeling drained or anything like that. So I take those moments to center and ground. So, excuse me. So getting to that grounded and centered space. And then once you're in that grounded and centered space, and grounding is different, than centering. Okay. Centering is where, so you go through life and there's stuff happening, messages are pinging through. There's just so much happening out there and you're just feeling pulled in multiple directions. So you're kind of everywhere all at once. To center, you want to bring all of yourself back into yourself. And there's a really cool exercise. We can do it now if you want to run through it.
Oh, we were actually talking about this yesterday on our podcast. Whitley was like, I'm just sitting there resting or relaxing. And then I look up and this vent is like blowing hot air. And then I start to realize, wait, my other vents don't do that. So then she goes on a spiral.
Yeah.
Right. So right? This is good. I want this. Let's do it.
Perfect. So a super cool exercise is you can do this eyes open or eyes closed. It's literally to just imagine. So and everybody imagines differently too. Some people see things, some people smell things, hear things, pretend. It doesn't really matter. Just pretend if you have to. But you're just going to imagine that you're floating above your body. Like you're just floating. Let's make it even easier. You're just floating on water. That's an easier one. So you're just floating out in the ocean. And if you feel safe in water, if you don't feel safe in water, let's just have you laying on the beach. So wherever you feel safe. And then I just want you to imagine this light coming down and up and all from the sides and encompassing you completely, absolutely encompassing you. And it allows you and your energy to just explode into billions and trillions of beautiful little pieces like grains of sand. And you just absolutely explode your energy out. And then you pull it back into yourself with a breath. You just pull it back into yourself. And as you're pulling it back in, you run it through a screen door. And that screen door captures all of the distractions and all of those energies that don't belong. And so it just pulls you right back in. And you feel as you're doing that your stomach kind of pulls in a little bit, like you just feel yourself tightening up a little bit. And you pull it all back in and it's the clean, clear, pure energy. And now you're totally centered. So as you're breathing through that, you're just to just go through that again, your energy is expanded. It's gone out as far as it can into light beings, like all these little crystals of light. And then you bring it back in through a screen filter that filters out all distractions, anything that no longer belongs. And you're left back with the true essence of who you are. And then you just take a breath and just start breathing normally. And the feeling suddenly is like, wait, this is different.
Oh, but actually, I feel
I love
calm.
that.
Yeah, and I feel
so
calm and centered.
Yeah, I feel
so it's
calm. Yeah, less overthinking.
And that's the thing. We end up with thoughts. So my belief, I have no idea if anything that I know is true. But my belief is thoughts are like this highway, the cars on the highway. It's constantly going by and we start paying attention to different cars, right? So, and then we just bring that car, we look at it a little bit closer and then we try and get into the car and then we get into the car and we drive it around for a while and we realize we didn't really want to be in that car. So we let that car go. And then we're back on the highway looking for the next car. But it's just a constant highway. And it's the ones that we pay attention to that grow, right? And the more we pay attention to a thought, the longer we think the thoughts that we think, it eventually creates our belief system.
Yeah.
So that the more we pay attention to that car or that thought, we start then believing that that's truth.
I agree with you. Yeah, because like I feel like the more we focus on something, the more attention we give it, the more we can let it get out of control in a sense where, you know, if I feel positive today, say about, you know, where we're going with our future and with Soul Sisters, and then tomorrow I feel I'm online and I'm looking at other people and I start to feel imposter syndrome or like, oh, it's such a long road, or like, you know, as I keep adding to that negative self-talk, I'm already like down a hole and let it get back out. So I love that exercise. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it every day because I feel like it's so powerful to like really like center ourselves or like ground ourselves. You did say something. You said there's a difference between centering yourself and grounding yourself. So can you explain that?
Yeah. So again, my perspective of what I've learned over the years. So to me, when you're not feeling centered, it's like your energy is everywhere. So another way of thinking of it is you're walking through the mall and it's packed, but you've got this huge long robe behind you, and everybody in the mall that's attracted to your light, your energy, starts to lay on the robe. And now suddenly you're dragging all of these people and their problems behind you on the road. By the time you get to the store you wanted to go to, you're exhausted.
Yeah.
You're now pissy. You don't want to deal with your kids. Everybody's like getting after each other. And so it's like letting go of the robe, realizing you didn't need to have that in the first place because, you know, it wasn't the space for you to be totally open and just bringing all the energy in. You certainly want to be open when you're one-to-one with clients. You're open with your kids. You choose when to be open, but, you know, as healers or people that are on that spiritual path, we're open all the time.
Yeah.
So learning how to center and bring that energy back in, it really helps. Like, so, you know, practical experience for me, the way I've learned lessons in the past, hopefully it's in the past, is, you know, I'll do something or I'll know something isn't right and it just doesn't feel right. And you're doing it anyway, and you're not feeling that you have choice. You're just continuing to do the thing that doesn't feel comfortable anymore. So I can talk about, I've been divorced twice, right? So there's been some uncomfortableness in my life. Wonderful men, not going after the men at all. They are the fathers of my children. We just grew beyond our energies. Like we just grew apart. The journeys were not easy. So I'm not saying that I didn't go through a whole lot of stuff. But the way I would learn is I would get like little warnings, you know, like a bird would tap at the window, then be like, oh, cute bird. Then, you know, somebody would say something to me or I'd hear a song on the radio and I'm like, oh, those are interesting lyrics, kind of like what I'm going through right now. Or, wow. And then, but still not owning it, right? Not doing anything about it. And it's go on for hours, days, months, years. And then suddenly it would feel like I got hit by a Mack truck. Something big would happen. There'd be some kind of catastrophe. Sometimes it was physical. Sometimes it was emotional, financial. There was some big thing. It was when I got hit by the Mack truck that I finally paid attention, right? So my goal is to help people recognize that there's a Mack truck heading their way and to get out of the way before it, learn how to get out of the way and see the signs and test through so that they don't have to experience trauma anymore, so that they can go, you know what, I'm going to use my discernment. I'm going to make sure I'm centered and grounded. And now I'm going to make this choice from the place that I'm at right now. And I'm going to listen and I'm going to understand, like you mentioned, imposter syndrome. I belong. I'm allowed to take up space. I can be here and all of me, and I'm going to make mistakes and it's okay. And I'm going to be stuck in my feelings and it's okay. But I need a tribe. I need to find people around me that can help support me, not be catty and not start the name blame and, you know, that blame game of, oh, well, it's that thing's fault or it's that thing's. I'm here. I'm responsible 100% for the role that it's playing in my life. I'm not fully responsible for everything that's happening, but I'm fully responsible for my part in it. So I want someone to stand beside me and hold a mirror up and go, girl, you got stuff to work through. And, when I work with animals, their messages, it's, yes, I can tell you whether your cat likes this food or that food and it's better for their bodies and all that kind of stuff. So the very first person that I went to see, I went because of my dog.
Right.
Because she could help my dog is why I bought into this. So I didn't realize that I could speak to animals until I actually went years later to an animal communication course. So I took a course to study from an animal communicator of how to do this. And I'm like, wait, what? I've been doing this since I was a little girl. Like, what the heck is this all about? I was fortunate enough to be raised in the country in Canada and like on a little hobby farm. And we did have animals and they would come and go, through we'd rescue all sorts of things. And we had a few chickens, a few this, a few that, never big herds of creatures, but just a few horses, a few whatevers. Really super fortunate childhood. And I would be in the barn all the time. I just knew what they needed. I knew what they wanted. I kind of knew what they were saying, but I didn't know that wasn't normal. It was just who I was. And I was literally, I'd go and not only would I have kids following me everywhere, I would have animals following me everywhere. So it felt like the Pied Piper. Still to this day, I live in a small city, and I have 2 dogs and 2 cats. And when I take the dogs for a walk in the morning, the cats follow. So they follow across to the park, and I'm the joke of the neighborhood because, these cats just naturally follow. So you just tune into the animal, and the animal has messages if you listen. So again, it's using a pendulum or using a muscle test to make sure you're on the right path. And the work that as I've developed my intuition, I don't know if I can say hear, because it's not like I hear voices. Okay. It's more of a knowing. I know what they want to say, and so I can write it out for the pet family. So
can you give an example of that, Heather? Like if I have like a horse, because I've seen this on TikTok where there are animal communicators, and I saw one the other day, and they were talking to a horse or talking to the owner of the horse, right? And saying how Betty doesn't like her saddle or something, right? So can you give me an example of what that would look like if you were communicating with an animal?
Yeah, I can in a second, but I think, Whitley, we worked on your cat.
I was literally about to say, I was like, I have the story for this. Yeah. So like where Heather actually helped me bring my cat home. So Zaina, so this was just back maybe like 6 months ago. Zaina, she's like outdoor cat. She'd go out, but she always came back at a certain time, right? And one night she didn't come back at her usual time, and she was gone all night, and then still no Zaina the next morning. And I was like, okay, something's seriously wrong. So I waited, and she still didn't come home. So I was like, so at this point she's missing over 24 hours, and I'm like, she's gone. So I contacted Heather because I know that Heather's able to communicate with animals, and I spoke with her. And Heather, you basically had taken a few moments and you tuned into her energy, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And Heather, and I remember her telling me this. She said, she's okay. Somebody has her. She's in somebody's house right now, and she doesn't want to be there. She doesn't want to be. She just wants to get home. She wants to get back home. And I remember Heather, you had said to me to like visualize putting a color around her home and then attaching that so that Zaina could be drawn to the house, like drawn back to our house. So like I remember wrapping our house in, I think it was the color yellow. I want to say it was yellow. But anyways, I wrapped it around and visualized it, wrapping our house with like a color yellow. And then I remember later on that afternoon when the kids got home, they were going outside to do some door knocking to a couple of the neighbors' houses to see if they've seen our cat. And so they were going to 2 houses. And then the next thing you know, we saw Zaina coming down the street from the opposite end, coming down the street back to the house. And she had a collar on. So somebody had her in their house because she came back with a little collar and a little belt.
Oh my God, they dressed her up and stuff. Like,
so like that.
No wonder she wanted to come home. She's like, get this in that.
Somebody actually took her and had her in their house.
How'd you get
All of
away?
this. Yeah. So it's like this.
Oh my
That's a story.
God.
There's an example right there of
That's so
just
cool.
so cool. So cool. I was so grateful too. Yeah, because like Zaina's like family, right? Yeah, but so cool.
Yeah, and
Wow.
it doesn't always happen that quickly. You know, like
Mhm.
we can get a sense, we, I don't know why I just said we. I can get a sense of where the animal might be from a surrounding perspective. I don't like to say that I absolutely know because I really don't. It's just a sense. And
Yeah.
you just get this feeling and then the story starts coming out.
Yeah.
And, you know, you mentioned a horse sherry. So I have worked in horse barns, like for racehorses
Mhm.
and for individual owners and for people that their horses are hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's huge investments in these creatures to perform. So in the racetrack world, not all horses want to race, but the majority do. Right. So and most owners know that when their horses want to versus when they're being forced to, they know.
Mm.
So I was asked to come in and work with this one horse at a racetrack, and she kept throwing her gait. So she would lose her momentum moving forward. So she would just kind of trip up as she was running. And when they throw a gait, it can be dangerous because they can get hurt. They can drop their rider. They can whatever. There's multiple things that can happen. So they're like, I don't know what to do. She's throwing her gait. Like she's such a good horse. We're getting closer to those wins. We just really we'll invest more in her, but can you pick up anything? So I went and I worked with her, and there is a crystal and it's called fluorite, and it's known universally for balancing gaits. So for people that fall a lot, that trip a lot, you can actually wear a piece of fluorite, the crystal. There's a little tidbit for you. You can get it in a necklace or put it in your pocket or whatever, just a little piece. It doesn't have to be huge, and you'll stop being, you become more balanced on your feet. So they were open to sewing this into the something on the horse anyway, whether it was part of the bridle, part of their of some kind. I've got a cat going nuts in the background right now, having the Zoom.
I could see.
Yeah. So that was one of the things they were open to. And I'm like, all right, so what else? So as we were talking to this horse, and the owner was there and very open. So that's the one thing the owner has to be open to, right? And so there's the owner and the caretaker of the animal. And the caretaker is the one that's with the horse all the time in the barns, and the owner comes in because they've got the investment. But the owner was open. Whatever the horse says, like whatever the horse wants is what we'll do. Whatever it needs, they've got the money, they'll invest. And the horse is like, I want to be a mom. And I'm how do you convey that when their focus is like, all right, so this is what's coming across, that she keeps throwing her gaits because she doesn't want to run anymore. She would like to birth the next runner. So she'd like her bloodline to be carried forward. Sorry, table's bouncing, cat's jumping on the table.
Okay.
He wants to be a runner.
Confirmation.
Confirmation, absolutely. Right. And so the owner was like, if that's what she wants, that's what she wants. And they did put her out to pasture. They honored what she wanted. Again, I'm so grateful that I am able to work with clients like that, right? Not everybody's going to take that news. And anyway, they got her off and they started to breed her. So I don't know what the story was beyond that, because all I knew at the last was that she was happy being a mom, roaming the fields.
That's amazing.
Because they can't
so there's
to us, right? And that's cool that
Absolutely.
you could be that medium for them to speak to, on their behalf. And
absolutely one of the
cool.
One of the gifts that I can give a lot of clients is that when they've got an animal that's really sick and they just don't know, the vet, do we take them to the vet and euthanize? Because we have choice with our pets, right? And is this what the animal wants? And a lot of times we're so caught up in our own grief and our own worry and our own stress that we just don't know what choice to make. And it's in those emotions that I would always say, ask somebody. That's where you're going to ask for confirmation. This is what I'm getting, but I need confirmation, right? So I would be the confirmation for that person. So I'm able to tune in and say, this is what the animal is wanting. So that way that the animal's person can make the ultimate choice. They still don't have to follow what the animal wants, but at least they know. And then post the animal passing, we can still bring messages forward.
Really?
Amazing.
So even after they've passed?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's actually it's
Yeah.
so incredible to think that at the end of the day, all of this is really just like it's energy, being able to tap in and tune into energies,
Yeah.
right? And we can really use that in so many ways, and it comes in so many different forms. And like to your
From
point,
so
you've
many
got
origins too, right?
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm really curious too, Heather, because I know that you work with so many different energies, and part of what you do and like you said, helping others is really being able to tune in and be aware of their own intuition in of the energies so that they can, quote unquote, avoid the Mack truck. What are some ways that we can really cultivate our own intuition to being able to discern the signs and the things that maybe are coming through to us that's helping us to avoid, I don't want to say avoid, but to lean more into our higher selves?
The
Oh
Mack
yeah.
trucks are always there.
Yeah.
There's always lessons because that's all it's how can I grow today? Right? So bring me the ways that I can grow today. We want to be the most beautiful flowers on the planet. We don't want to just grow and die, right? We want to just take in everything possible.
Mm-hmm.
So it's how can I grow today? And I was going to say earlier, one of the things you'd mentioned is you were going down this rabbit hole of all the things that are happening, getting caught up in everything in social media. Yes, that's happening. Or yes, that's happening, but. So you can have both in your
Mm-hmm.
awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you put the and or the but in there, it doesn't have to be one or the other.
Right.
And that's what we get caught up in is like, okay, I've got to stop focusing on that. Well, you can't. It's almost impossible to. It's going to be brought up in conversation. It's in the ether, right? It's in this energy field around us in our collective energy. So you've got to first acknowledge that I'm feeling this way and or I'm
Mm-hmm.
feeling this way, but there are ways that I can fix this. There are tools at my disposal. There are people that can help me. So when we're drowning in that, I feel so alone. We detach and then you kind of cocoon yourself and you think you're the only one. And I think platforms like social media, TikTok, those types of things have opened up the world to find more people like yourself. So you can start to find your tribe. But the negative to that is you'll also find out about things you would never have known about and you would never have needed to know about, right? Like that just didn't concern you. You don't
It's
need to spend your
overload.
energy there. It is. It is. So the first is bringing back to center. Yes. And I'm feeling this way and I'm going to center myself. I'm going to get grounded. I'm just going to remember that I'm driving this beautiful car and my body is my shell. It's my car. I'm a spirit having a physical journey. And the car is my body, right? So I'm just going to drive this around to the best that I can. But you know what? I've got a flat tire and it's really difficult. I'm just not making it through, but I got to fix the flat tire before I can go anywhere else. All right. So I've identified that I've got a flat tire. So I've got a pain somewhere in my body. So now, like, I've got that pain. Now, what am I going to do? So what are my
Right.
options? What are the options that I am aware of?
Mm-hmm.
Because granted, you're aware of a million. So you just keep questioning it. What are the options I'm aware of? So let's pick, like I broke my finger. So it's an easy one. So I broke my finger. What are the options? I can cry about it. I can be really sad about all the things I can't do, like normal, right? I can then laugh at myself. I can do all those other things. All right, I can go get an x-ray. I can go for physio. I can go get a cast. Those are things I can do. Are there any other ways I can help my body heal other than just the traditional medicine? So is there a supplement I can take? Okay, yes, there is. I can add arnica. I can take something for the stress that my body's going through the trauma, because yeah, it's a finger, but the body is still responding to a trauma. It's something broke. So you take something like arnica. Then, all right, what else can I do? Okay, I can do a little bit of energy work around the space. All right, what else can I do? And you get to that point where when you've done as deep as you can go on the what else can I do, then you're like, all right, I've done everything I know to do. If there's anything else I can do or anything else, please show it to me. And then suddenly someone will call or you'll listen to a podcast or it'll be on a radio. You'll hear it in a song or it'll just cross your path. And so that you're open to those. I don't know everything, but what I do know is, and what I can research is, and I think, AI is helping us expand our potentials there too, using a tool like ChatGPT and going in and using it as your advisor, your spiritual advisor, and saying, I've got this broken finger. I know what to do allopathically. Like, I know what to do with the doctor and the surgeon and all that kind of stuff. And I know a little bit about homeopathy. So I know to take arnica. I know that comfrey is a really good thing for knitting bones back together. There's supplements like boron and calcium and magnesium and hexapentine. Like, there's just so many different things I can take. So I'm going to put that all the knowledge that I do have into my question. But what else do you know what I can do? Like, pull from all the sages and all the wisdom on the planet, pull it all together and give me some other suggestions that I may not know. And it may spit some real wisdom out to you. So that's kind of a cool tool that we now have at our fingertips.
I love that.
And then to test if it's in your highest and best interest, you pull out your pendulum.
Okay.
Right? So you pull out your pendulum, or you can go online and see, anywhere online you can see on YouTube, there's people that have videos of the body sway technique. So it's using your body as a pendulum.
That. Yes.
So naturally falling forward. And the way I teach this to my clients is you kind of stand with your feet shoulder width apart, and you really get solid, you get that solid stance. No one's going to push you down, that kind of stance. So you stand where you're really feeling in your body, and then you just allow yourself to fall forward as you're saying the word, yes, this is good for me. And you get all excited, yes. And you just fall forward gently. Then you get back in the center and you think like, no, this isn't for me. And you allow your body to fall backwards. And you have to push yourself forwards and backwards a little bit to teach your body what you need it to do. And so you're starting to set the ground rules for that. Then the first question you ask yourself is, it's a truth question, right? So instead of saying something that you're not really sure of, I used to say, my name is. And a lot of people have been adopted. They may not know their full name, like their real name, or they may have used a pet name through the years, or they may have shortened or lengthened their name. So names can be confusing. The majority of people know where they were born. So you say, I was born in, and then you say the city out loud. If it's a truth statement, you will fall forward. Okay. If it's a lie, you will fall backward. So if it's good for you, you will go forward. If it's bad for you, you'll go backward. And, one of the things that you think about is, you're standing in line, and I'll just keep at a bank, like it's easy when you used to stand in line in a bank. So you'd stand in line in the bank, and the person in front of you is like just magnetic. Their light is shining. You're like, oh, I really want to. And you start moving. You feel yourself wanting to get closer to that person. You want to hear their conversation. You want to know more about them. So you're drawn in, right? You're pulled. Your body naturally wants to go forward. And then you see somebody over in your periphery that's kind of like, looks like a normal person, but it's just not feeling right. There's just something, you can't explain it, but your intuition bells are going like, you're drawing your kids closer, but you're moving physically away, like you're backing away. Your body does that every time you eat something, every time you drink something, every time you take a supplement, a medication, it naturally will want it or it will repel it.
Oh,
and it's really understanding to start. And so you start bringing up like a glass of water and you hold that up. And I just hold it on my chest. And the reason you hold things on your chest is that's where your thymus gland is. And your thymus gland is the energy center of your body. It's like the beautiful lotus flower that is just this gland that just radiates just so much joy and love. And so you hold it up to your thymus gland. And if you naturally go backwards, probably not in your highest and best interest. And it could just be at this time. So you just test it a little bit later. You just check in a little bit later. And, when you're checking that in, when I was checking in with my partner, like, girl, like it's time to make change. Fear would take over.
Your
right?
body knows is what you're
your
saying.
Body knows. Your body knows.
So anybody can do this, Heather.
Everybody can do this.
Okay.
Everybody does this every single day.
We do it naturally.
Absolutely. You see the babies that naturally reach out to those that they feel good with and they feel comfortable with. And you see the babies like, no, don't touch me with the people they don't. They're good at being really honest. And so are animals.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They are so honest.
Yeah.
They are so honest. They'll come up to you and I've been kicked, I don't know how many times by horses. And that was my transport truck, right? Like, oh, for God's sake, Heather, get your stuff together. I've been thrown, I've been dragged, I've been, like you've got horses.
Yeah,
you ride
my
horses.
goodness.
Things happen.
Wow.
So Heather, you do that with animals. Can you do that with people too?
Yes. So the
Yeah.
majority of my clients are people.
Okay.
And it was that natural. So I joked earlier that before we started that um, I'm very much a people person, but I prefer animals.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
love to be around people, but then I get to my limit and I'm like, you know what, I need my safe space. And I think that's why I was able to develop my distance healing as strongly as I have. I still see clients in person. So that's something I still do, but it's that distance work that I'm just more comfortable with because I don't feel all of the everything coming in all at once. I can just focus in on exactly what questions they're asking instead of all the other stuff.
I just wanted to know a little bit more about the distance healing, just because I'm more interested in the distance healing. And I think a lot of people might be interested in Reiki too, should they go to a Reiki healer? Should they do Reiki on themselves? Should they learn? Because many times people learn Reiki for themselves or they learn to become like a healer or practitioner, right? And so my mom, being that she's away in Barbados and she and my sister both have ailments, now my brother-in-law does too. Like everybody's sick. So I'm like, if I could learn how to heal Reiki, distance Reiki, I want to get an idea, I guess, of what that looks like. Because you're not near the person, you're far away. So how does that work energetically when you heal from a distance?
So it's a great question, and I wish I had an answer. I don't know how cell phones work,
Yeah,
but it's the same. It's the same kind of. It's the same
right,
kind of thing.
right.
I'm suddenly reading something that somebody sent me. Like I'm reading messages. My kids are in the other side of the world right now, and I'm getting messages from them, and I'm able to respond. I'm able to call them. My phone's not attached to anything. It's just coming through the ethers, right? Yes, there's a whole net and a system set up, but it's literally coming through the ether. And I believe that energy travels in that same way. I believe, and this is something that when I was just little, like maybe 4 or 5, I remember thinking about this, just imagining that we're a spider's web and everybody is at an intersection of the webbing and we are all connected through this spider's web. So we're all at different points and we're all, every being, every plant, tree, anything living, we're all connected in this spider's web. And it's just where we choose to intersect. We can go anywhere and everywhere. And I believe, again, it's just my imagination. I imagine the energy is going along that spider's web and it's reaching the intended person. So there's a couple of rules that I have around energy work. I will not work on anybody without their permission. That's just absolutely no. I won't ask questions. I won't get involved in someone else's energy. That feels very ego and very manipulative to me.
Yeah.
So I stay out of that. Absolutely. For a mother with a young child, I will.
I was just going
No,
to
go
ask,
ahead.
if you wanted to send healing to a family member, would you can you do that though? Like, even though you don't get permission, but if you want to send loving healing or, to a family
prayers
member,
or
can you do that?
vibes.
Is that wrong? Yeah.
It's not wrong. It's not wrong to send. It's kind of like, because it's not just, I'm trying to clear energy. I'm trying to help them work through some issues and clear space and remove things like blockers out of their path, right? From an energetic perspective, I'm kind of going in, recognizing that there's blocks and kind of figuring out what those blocks are. Are they attached to a person, a situation, an emotion, something physical? So you're recognizing what those blocks are and then moving those blocks out of the way. Well, if it's a person, now I'm meddling and I just feel that I'm meddling. So I can reach out to that person and say, you know what, I'd love to just help you clear some of this stuff. And then I've got their permission. But I learned very early on that people don't appreciate it when you go in and you start working on their energy without them knowing. And I just think it's really bad practice. And it's not the best. You can send them love and light. You can send them love energy. You can send those prayers that I hope that you're well. But the minute that you start diving into that, where you're starting to pull information,
It's
and
invasive.
trying to put a stories, it's very invasive, and it may not be part of their journey at this time.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. Reiki masters say that, psychics say that you don't just go in a room and read someone. you ask permission if you need to, or let them ask you. So
Yes.
that is also like with Reiki, how do you know when someone wants it? Like, obviously, like maybe they don't know you're a Reiki master or you know Reiki. So how do you, like, you think that they need it? How do you ask them? Like, or do they come and ask you?
Open your trench coat and you offer them a watch, right? Hey, I got a deal for
I
you.
got this tool and this tool. So start working on you.
I think people get to that journey where they start searching for answers. They get to that point in their journey. So that the minute they're at the point of their journey that they're looking for answers, I'm hoping to be one of those solutions so that they
Okay.
find me on the shelf of all the other options that they have. What I do is not going to work for everybody. I'm not everybody's healer, and neither is anybody else. But those that are meant to work with me, I really want them to be able to find me. And so I'm able to help them. I can think when I do lectures or when I do big talks and there's hundreds of people in the room, I know right away that 50% of the people, the message isn't for them. Another 25% of those 50% remaining aren't going to like what I have to say. They're not going to like me at all. And then there's a small percentage of those people that are absolutely keeners and they want to be like, they're there, they're going to take
Right.
notes, they're like ready to implement. And then there's a percentage that are like, meh, I don't know. So it's a real small percentage in every room that you're really going to have an impact on. So my goal when I'm having those conversations is just light up the ones I'm meant to have an impact on, and all the rest, may they find who they're meant to be impacted by.
So
And that just pulls ego out of the way.
and who are like the people that would typically go to you, Heather, that would be like ready to work with you?
So people that are already on their journey. So they've realized that, you know what, so my very first clients back in the day, they've been to and when I talk back in the day, this is before even probiotics were a thing.
Oh, wow.
Right? So we've come a long way. There weren't health food stores everywhere. There was maybe a bulk store that sold some supplements, or there was some woman in a small town that kind of had all her herb concoctions. And I'm not quite that old, but it was really difficult to find these things, right? So back at that time, it was very physical. So people would come to me with very physical issues. So cancer, AIDS, their child was, I remember this one little boy I'll never forget. And he was a twin, him and his twin sister. Maybe they were 8. Let's just say that they were 8. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. But anyway, around that age. And he was much smaller than his sister. Was still wearing, they couldn't have been 8 because he was still wearing a diaper. So anyway, just couldn't control his bowels, was just struggling. There was nothing medically they could find wrong with him. And his mother was like, he's going to die. Like, I know he's not going to survive this. I don't know what to do. And he was just listless. And it was just, that's clients that I started with. And I was in my young 20s, right? So I'm dealing with these heavy cases. They don't have much time left to live. And they're like, okay, well, I'll try this muscle testing naturopathic thing and see what that's all about. And back then there wasn't even a naturopath that wasn't a designation in Canada. It wasn't an MD. We were just holistic healers. So that was what it was. So I am not a naturopathic healer. I'm not licensed in naturopathy, but I've taken all sorts of courses around it. Just to put that disclaimer out there. Anyway, so I was working with this little boy, and through muscle work was able to ascertain that there was a lot going on in his bowels. And the things that generally go on in the bowels are parasites, viruses, different amoebas, that kind of stuff. And I'm like, here's what I'm picking up. I can't diagnose anything, but this is the path for you to go down with your doctor. In the meantime, knowing that it's bowel related, here's some remedies that support the bowel for children. And so we put her on some remedies that muscle tested for the child. We had to do surrogate testing. So it was like distance work. So she would hold her child and I would test her muscles. And anyway, like 3 months later, she came back. The boy came back, no more diaper, totally healed, totally running around. And and the way we got to that point was just by listening. So her story, and the little boy had been, the mom worked around horses. The kids were playing in the horse barns all the time. So he was constantly like dirty, like just what you're supposed to do, get in dirt naturally, right? Building your immune system up in the dirt. Anyway, and he consumed parasite. And so she actually was able to go to the hospital and she did her own research, bless her, own research at medical libraries, and found potential parasites that could cause the exact symptoms that her son had her son tested for those, like took the information to the doctors, had her son tested for those, and they were positive.
Wow.
So they were able to put him on the right medication to bring him back. So it wasn't that the supplement saved him. I didn't do it, but it was a joint effort to be able to be that detective to help start to dig out the story. So yes, it was listening. Yes, it was energy. Yes, it was working on supplements. And yes, it was embracing allopathic medicine and making sure that we were getting the proper tests. It's encompassing. So there's multiple ways to get to the answer. But those types of things, you just want to get in front of people like that, right? So the ideal client, I'm grateful that people are finding me much earlier in their journey now because I lost the majority of my first clients, right? But a lot of them were only given months to live with their cancers. And so we would do humor therapy and we work on, the grief and bring their families together and talk about, different ways to do energy work with their families and help them with the dying process and kind of being a death doula, being a death, things about being a death doula, right?
Yeah.
Now my clients are finding me much sooner. So they're no longer getting hit by the Mack truck, but they know they're all around, right? They're just everywhere and they just don't know what they're doing to continue to attract them. So they're every age group, mostly women. A lot seem triggered still by hormones. So it could be hormonal stages going into puberty, going through that, starting to parent children, like in those years, pre-menopause, so perimenopause, and then postmenopausal. So a lot of that, if we hear about cortisol, we hear about insulin resistance, we hear about our thyroids, they're all connected, right? Everything's connected. And, you go to the allopathic medicine and there's nothing for you. Like you're just crazy, you're just whatever. But they're starting to listen now more. And it's really being advocates for women to go back to their physicians and say, I need you to do this test. I need to know where my blood levels are around this. I need to understand this so that they can start to own their health and then take care of that flat tire in their body the way they choose to, whether it's going on some kind of hormonal intervention through the medical field, which work for some people, not everybody, whether it's taking a hormonal support that's maybe a herb or using creams, that type of thing. There's also bioidentical hormones that you can get through a pharmacy that work, kind of bridging the two gaps that work for most age groups. So there's all sorts of ways to counter that. Cortisol and thyroid sit on a teeter-totter. So if one's off, the other will be off. So, learning how to balance all of that. So I see a lot of women. I would say they're the majority of my practice. I see a few men. It just seems women, I'm more attracted to working with women because I have more alike with them. And then I work with a lot of parents that are struggling with kids at different ages. And, I tell the story of you name it. Me and my small little family have gone through it. So we've got over 20 concussions between the boys. We've got between two boys. We've got brain injuries. We've got broken bones. We've got every gamut of every kind of illness that we've dealt with naturally and allopathically, like you name it, dealing with parenting issues, like all of those things, and co-parenting and how to continue to be yourself during all of these things. So it all comes back to what we originally talked about, and to wrap kind of this energy back in a big hug is that we really need to get to know who we are, get centered into ourselves, learn how to trust our intuition. So penduluming is a way, learning that body sway is a way, muscle testing. I do teach muscle testing. I teach it online. So muscle testing, learning how to do, just using a muscle, like a strong muscle and a weak muscle that breaks apart, learning how to do those types of things. How do you set yourself up to make sure you're telling yourself the truth? Those types of things, because, we lie to ourselves the most, no, I don't really need that chocolate. Oh no, I can have it. Yeah, it tested, yes, so I can have it. Those types of things. So it's a full gamut. And my clients, there's no two sessions that are the same. and there's no two clients that are the same.
You know, as you're like speaking to Heather, I'm just like thinking of all of the ways that you have been able to help me like heal things, like to be able to recognize things that were going on in my body that I had no idea what it was. And then you being able to really help me like by assisting me in identifying like what were those things. And then also even like they were tied to even emotionally, right? Like energetically, emotionally, but then also you would be able to provide me with like feedback on, okay, so I want you to start these supplements and I want you to take this out of your diet for this amount of, these amount of weeks, and then start to incorporate some of those things back into your diet. And like you literally have helped me learn so much about my body that I am so in tune with my body now. Like what I eat, whatever I put into my body and the physical activities that I do with my body, I'm so in tune with my body now as a result of working with you and you helping me to really, I guess, like be one with my body, right? But it's just incredible too. And then on the flip side, when you're talking about like parenting and stuff too, like you've been like such a huge role model and an inspiration. Like I look up to you as a parent, like as a mother, like I look up to you so much for like how you are and how you show up as a parent and how you choose to parent. And like just even the relationship that you have with your kids is just like, it's so beautiful. So like I aspire to that. And you've always been a role model to me and how I want to show up as a parent and the type of relationship I want to cultivate with my kids. So yeah, it's like you are literally such a guru. Like you're just like this wise. I feel like we all joke about this at our organization. Like we call you the wise one, Heather the wise one. You're so wise. You have so much wisdom. It's just it's amazing.
Well, she's at 30 years, right? 30
Exactly.
years.
And it would imposter syndrome. I would have not accepted that in the past, right? I would have been like, no, you know what, but you know what, I do own that. And I've worked hard to get to where I'm at, but I think everybody can learn to get to where everybody else, you can always grow. I am not special. There is nothing that makes me any more special than anybody else on the planet. I have just chosen to spend my energy in certain ways because I was super selfish. Every course I took was for me or my kids. And then I'd be like, all right, I may as well use it on my clients too. And, it was always selfishly driven because I wanted to understand it. I wanted to know more about it. And how is it going to help me? Could it help my family? And then, all right, well, I may as well share this too. And so that's how you start your journey.
Yeah.
And it's really important to be vulnerable. It was really difficult for me to get there, to be in that place of feeling vulnerable. But that's the way you can align with other people. Because if I can say, I've been there, I don't have to tell you my story, but I can relate and say, I understand because I've had a similar experience. And here's some of the tools that have helped me get through that. Here's some podcasts to listen to.
Yeah,
Here's
yeah.
some other books to read. So it's like you build your library through your life. And you don't want your library to get dusty. You want to share your books. You want to share those learnings with others. And I think I've done a disservice, and I feel I've done a disservice by not being out there more. But at the same time, I flip that and go, and I raised my kids and I focused on my kids and I built a life that feels really good and comfortable for us. And I have a long way to go. And I have so much more still to give and so much more to teach and so much more to learn. And I think the more that we learn and share and learn and share and learn and share, the more we can do the journey together. And we don't have to be steps ahead of one another because there's areas in other people's lives that are way beyond where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I'm way beyond where someone else is at in certain areas. And that's all okay.
Yeah.
So it's all just learning how to be okay with where I'm at and aspiring to be somewhere else and still being on your own journey. Right. I think that's so important. And, dropping away all of those judgments. And, I've mentioned to Whitley, there's a few things that I just don't want to be judged about. I've been judged my whole life, and let them, Mel Robbins theory, let them.
Yeah.
Let them think what they want to think. It's totally okay.
Right.
It's easy to say, but
It's a process
really
though, right?
difficult.
To get there,
Of course
Heather.
it is. Of course it is. And it's a journey. And you're
Mhm.
going to have those moments where I feel like I've got it under control. Like you mentioned earlier about soul sisters, like you really feel you've got it. And then the next day you're like down the weeds and it doesn't feel the same. But those moments can shift in moments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm feeling this right now, but I also know that I've got a platform now that I can help millions of women.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm feeling this way right now. And maybe I can take a little bit of that I just learned and add it to what I'm doing and bring that forward in a podcast. And like, it's always that looking at it instead of a, oh my God, I can't
Half
do this.
glass.
And
But
you start to shrink, right? You start to get into yourself.
Exactly.
And you've got to go, you know what? If I help one person today, I have done so much for the world.
That's it. Yeah.
So it's so important. And the first person you need to help is you.
Yeah.
So
you're absolutely right. We do put our expectations higher than they should be. Because, we believe that's where we should be, and we should be confident in this, and we should know it all, and we should be like the gurus, and we should be up there where we should have been 10 years ago. But
and that's just you shooting all over yourself. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Shooting.
I love it.
And that's a word I raised my kids with.
You're shooting all over.
Yeah, because there's that woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? And so I raised my kids with that. Like, wait, you should do that? I should do that? No. No one's shoulding in this house. Right?
Yes.
And then you learn to be more discerning in your language, which then helps you make a decision, which helps you move forward, right? And that's, the pendulum helps you make the decision from a place of power.
Yeah.
Right? From
should
being
is a bad
empowered.
Word, actually.
Should is a cuss word.
It is a cuss. Yeah. I should do this. I have to do this, It's just,
you don't.
It's a
I
language.
Told you had to do something.
Yeah.
I really love the narrative shift on this, though. Like
thank you.
It's so good. I'm going to apply this now, because I know that Sherry and I talk about this sometimes where we find ourselves kind of like maybe we're having an off day or, like today, she hasn't been feeling that great.
But when I feel sick, I go down a spiral.
Right. But I mean, I feel like even the conversation today, like, has shifted your energy a little bit too, Cher. Like, I can feel
100%. You shifted my energy, and I feel like today was meant to happen for that reason. Like, you know how the universe divinely puts things in timely in your path? I'm like, I do not want to go on this podcast right now. I'm sick, but I'm going to, because I know that I'm going to get something out of it. And so I showed up. And guess what? I feel so much better because of your energy, because of what you brought and you taught us, because we're all students, right? All of it. We don't know everything. And I think that's what you taught me the first time I met you. And I remember this because I said something and you had a different outlook to it. And I said, wow, she's wise. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to put yourself in the student seat and stop looking at it as I know everything, because then what's the point of living? Like, what's the point of growing if we know everything? So thank you for doing that. Thank you for making me feel better. Now I'm going to go heal myself.
Stand in your power.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Yeah. And I think it's again coming back to remember that, our brain and the limitations that we put on ourselves, it's kind of like, just trying to think of an image. If you go into a library and it's dark, all you have is a flashlight. You're only going to see where that flashlight points. The more you go and you have help to, and you said, it was because of my energy. My energy just helps you open the doors to see your own. Right? So it's already within you. It's just opening those doors for you.
Wow.
To see it.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So no,
powerful.
Again, because there is no such thing as a guru. Now there may be in different, there may truly be. I just believe that comes from very ego energy. If I feel that I am the healer, then thou must come to me. Not at all. I'm going to help you open doors so that you can hear yourself, so that you can reframe it, right? So when you go into that library, you just flip the light switch on, rather than going with your little flashlight and trying to find your way. So my hope is that in a session, we flip that light switch on. Now you have choice of where you want to go. You can see all the options that are available to you. And then you can just go and grab what you need in that moment to help you get to that next stage.
Wow.
I know.
Mic drop, please.
Yeah. Heather, I feel like we could do multiple episodes with you because you just have so much, like, just you just
Okay.
have so much wisdom to share. And yeah, like, I could ask a million questions, but yeah, so
Maybe we'll bring her back on and do
yeah.
a whole different. Yeah.
Always,
love
always happy to, because, I used to complain about all the Mack trucks, and I don't want any more. Like, I'm done. I'm done. Like, my father was even a truck broker back in the day. So
Oh my
they were
God.
like literally in my life, not just.
Coincidental.
So if we wouldn't be, my kids wouldn't be, I wouldn't be the people we are today if we didn't have those mountains to climb, right? So I look at other people that haven't had any mountains. And so when something big happens, they don't have any tools to deal with it.
Yeah.
Honey, I got a Mack truck.
You can
A
curse
Mack
on the
truck full
podcast.
of tools.
It's okay.
My truck is full of tools, right? So I no longer have to worry. I've got tools. I don't have to worry about breaking down on the side of the road. I know how to fix myself. I know how, and when I don't know, I've got a team of people that I can reach out to.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's gathering those tools, and
That's the
I
thing.
love sharing them, and I love to remind people that they are so powerful. Like, you are so powerful. All you are is light. We are just light. We're vibrating at a speed that's slowed down to create the matter, right? So that we're tangible. We're in that 3D. But ultimately, we're light, connected through this spider web. So when you imagine that that's who we truly are, we're having experiences, and then you just laugh at things that happen because you're like, seriously? Like, we're these light beings and we're worried about that? Like, come on.
Yeah, I know.
And so it just helps bring us back to case reality.
Love that.
So happy to help anytime.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Heather. This is beautiful. And like, yeah, just thank you. And everything that you had to share today is like incredible. I'm literally like always a sponge when I get to sit down and have these conversations with you because, like Sherry said, we're all students, and yeah, it's like going into things with the mindset of like wanting to learn, not knowing everything, and so yeah, thank you.
Are you
so
taking
much.
on new clients, or are you taking on any new clients, Heather?
Yes. Yeah, always open. Always open. So my website, I've sent you the link to my website.
That. Yeah.
Yeah. And my email address. And then I've got a little gift for anybody that's interested. I have a meditation that I can share with anybody, voice recorded, or that they can just read in their own voice and save on their phone. You know, some voices don't align with ours. And it is about using the quantum field, that spider web field, to attract what we need and manifest what we need.
I love that.
So I'm happy to share that with everybody. We can give them a code or whatever, and they can just download it from the website.
Perfect. We'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And also, like, just for anybody who wants to get in contact with Heather as well, we'll drop her contact information.
100%. I can guide you to the help that you need. I may not have all the answers, but I can certainly help guide
just you being here is helpful. Just talking to you, I just call you up and be like, I can book a session with you, Heather, and we'll just chat for an hour and I'll feel better.
That's kind of my life, actually.
I love it. Yeah, it's just so inviting, right? Your energy is so inviting. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you both. I really appreciate this. I wish your journey much success. I know just with the light that you share and the wisdom that you both bring is going to help so many people.
Hey, Soul Sister, before you go, we want to share something with you. We believe that every woman has a story worth sharing and a voice worth hearing, and we'd love to hear yours. Share your personal breakthroughs, challenges, and journey with us by applying to be featured on our podcast, speaking events, or future publications. Want to join the movement? You can help us reach more women like you by leaving a review, subscribing, or sharing it with someone who needs a little inspiration today. You can catch us on all our socials and stay up to date on the fun to come. Remember, Soul Sister, together we rise.